Hello everybody, this is Derek from the DDude2611 channel after a long time. Hope I can still remember how to upload these videos, but it's October. Feels like summer still. Perch fishing is probably the last thing on anybody's minds. Winter and fall time perch fishing. And into the early spring too, you can catch them. But, it's pretty warm day for October here. Supposed to have a cold front coming in soon, but we'll see about that. But I wanted to show you guys some perch fishing equipment that I use and how I use it. Okay. Now I fish for perch from shore and from a boat. So I have done it both. Primarily from a boat these days, but I still do shore fish. Got some rods here to show you. This one's a little bit longer one. This is a 7'2" Panfish Elite rod. Light action. And I got just one example of a rig you can use on here. It doesn't have the 3/4 ounce or 1 ounce bell weight clipped onto the bottom swivel. Just because I don't keep them that way when they're not being used. But it's got a little, hopefully you guys can see that there, a little Aberdeen hook that's actually a fish skin material. A little bit of tinsel on there. Down to and that's a glow bead on that too, so it glows in the dark water. If there's the second one, hopefully you guys can see that. And here's the bottom swivel where you clip your weight on. This is 4-pound test I have on here, which, believe it or not, it is monofilament. Daiwa QZ or QR 750 little reel on there. Kind of the next size up between a 500 and a 1000, kind of a good intermediate size for perch. This reel is not a high-end reel, but it does the job very well. And I'll go over the baits and everything else like that. But this is a basic rig setup. You got your glow beads, your double hook rig. I don't usually buy the crappie rigs that come out of the package. These are actually from a local bait shop here. He sells these rigs, and they don't have the wire arms on them like a traditional crappie style spreader rig would have on them. So they're a little bit easier to work with. Half the time I can't get those other rigs out of the package without having to cut something, or sometimes I can't even salvage them right out of the package. Okay, now I'll get to my favorite rods that I've been using. Okay, save that for later. These are a little bit shorter, so they're fun to use in the boat. These are 6'6". Actually, no, they're 6 foot. Eagle Claw. See if it'll focus there. Eagle Claw feather light rods. These are ultralights. And let me tell you, when you hook a perch on this, perch are not known to be the best fighters in the world, obviously. I think everybody probably watching this video may know that. But I tell you what, when you catch a double, there was that fish skin again, glow beads. Fish skin, glow beads, bottom swivel, where I would attach a 3/4 ounce or a 1 ounce bell sinker, depending on depth. I fish for them anywhere from about 15 to 55, 57 feet of water, so there's quite a big variation in depths. So I do need to go up to a heavier weight at times. This is the old, discontinued, made by Daiwa, Cabela's Pro Guide 1000, which is actually more like a 500 size, but the Pro Guide 1000 from Cabela's, made by Daiwa. 4-pound monofilament on there. And I brought, doubles up out of 55 feet of water, and I've caught 14 inches out of 55 feet of water on the 4-pound line, and it's a blast. I mean, it really, really is. Your rod tip is touching the water, and your drag's going a little bit. Not too much, because we're not the best fighters, but I tell you what, it's a blast. It's a blast to catch them that way. And doubles are always fun, too. Now, here's what I use in the deeper water. What I showed you before will work in the deeper water. But this is really my ticket in the deeper water. Same rod. Same rod. Okay. That eagle claw feather light. But these are actually called perch flies. And what I have on here is an example of those perch flies. It's a double rig, same as with the other ones. So you do have the ability to catch a double on it. They still have the glow beads. But it's got this little flashaboo on here. You guys can see that? Little flashaboo. This one's like a chartreuse, lemon almost kind of color. And for me, when I'm fishing in that deep water, anywhere from, 55 to, 57, 58, 60 feet of water, these work very well at that depth. So you're probably thinking, great, that's a little bit of information about the setups. Now what kind of baits do you use? Well, far and away the most common is going to be minnows. Got two examples of minnow buckets here, the Flotro from Frabo and the insulated bait bucket, which has a styrofoam lining in it, also from Frabo. It's nothing I'm sponsored by them or anything. It just happens to be the buckets I use out there. I just wanted to give you a couple examples of them on the lake, of what I use out there. Now, the types of minnows I use. There's several types you can buy. And it depends on the time of year. Believe it or not, it does depend on the time of year. And for the winter, late fall, early spring, I like to use large fatheads. But regular crappie minnows will work in a pinch too. But medium or large fatheads are the ticket, I think. That works from the shallow, relatively shallow, 15 feet of water in some of the harbors, all the way out to the deep spawning grounds. You can catch them on the fatheads. In the summer, though, now the summer is a tricky bite because sometimes, the conditions don't set up and there's too many north winds and the thermocline gets disrupted near shore, and the perch really don't come in at all during the summer. This past summer, 2025, was an example of that. We only had one good day out there, and the rest of the time it was a struggle to even catch fish. And when we did, they were dinks. 5 inches, 6 inches, all throwbacks. Out of the, in the summer you're fishing shallower water, so you can kind of throw them back a little bit. But I'll have a special discussion here at the end about culling fish. and what that means. So go to the bait shop, load up on minnows, fatheads, crappie minnows mixed in. They'll work during the colder months of the year. That's kind of my key. Colder, there's just the regular old fatheads will work. In the summer, though, they actually, the jumbos will chase the lake shiners, the native Lake Michigan lake shiners, onto the beaches, real shallow water. So at that time of the year, they're a couple more dollars per dozen, and they're not quite as hardy to keep as the fatheads. They're a little bit more difficult. You will have more losses, so I usually buy them the morning of or the night before. But baby golden roaches, they're for those of you who do not know, they're not actual roach bugs, but they're actually a golden roach that you would use for like pike fishing under a tip up. They're a little baby version of it. They're also called baby shiners, I believe. And they kind of resemble, the way it was explained to me, is they kind of resemble the native lake shiners in